Okay. Just an aside, James, if you're listening, arguing that the PLE, that the VLE is important because we can use it to train our staff in the university is one of the silliest arguments I've heard in a long time. It's a very expensive form of staff training. Now look, this is not an academic debate, this is not a knock-around bit of fun. It is a knock-around bit of fun, but it's much more important than that. Education in 9 years, 10 years' time is not going to look the same. It's going to change. We have to get real about how students are learning, not making up institutional myths of how we would like students to be behaving. This is not a debate which can afford to be avoided. It's something we have to get right now. VLEs are dead. People are using personal learning environments for learning. That's the way it is. And we have to get real and understand that and react to that. And pretty soon. Now what I'm going to tell you today is a bit of analysis of why they're dead and how people are actually learning and what's happening. And then I think the question for years will be, what do universities do about it? Of course you can ignore it. Universities can ignore it. But they will be dead as well. Oh, don't automatically go to my second slide. Okay, Industrial Revolution. Let's start back in the 19th century. Our model of schooling, which we've still got today, comes from the Industrial Revolution. We're moving to mass education schooling model. A good thing, I think, to have schools. But let's not work out why it happened. It was there to train a mass workforce for a production line economy. And it had an institutional pedagogic approach, which is actually based on an earlier idea, the Latin idea of cruere. And what cruere means is, it comes from the word curriculum, it means a race, it means winners, losers, the same starting point, the same finish point, and of course, the person who wins is the one who gets there fastest. That's what, and it's rule-bound. That's what we based our education system on, rule-bound. In fact, we've increased the rules over the years. That's how we organised it all. Nothing wrong with that, nothing wrong with that. But I think that model's got problems. And what's that model about? Well, the things we valued most, and I've talked to many employers, and this is the thing employers say we want. We want employees who turn up on time, who are obedient, who are neat, tidy, clean. That's how we based our education system. But above all, we based our education system on homogeneity, on things being the same, on organisation, on neat units, on classes, on rooms, on schools, school districts, etc. That's the basis of our education system. And of course, when we bring in a piece of new technology, when new technology comes along, we don't think, oh, that's great, we'll chuck away our education model and produce something new based on the affordances of that technology. No, we say, we're supporting the traditional education model with that new technology. That's inevitable. So what were VLEs based on? What was the idea of virtual learning environments? Virtual learning environments were there primarily for managing learning. For managing the learners, not for learning for the learners, but for those managing learners. They were based on the idea of a push delivery of curriculum and learning materials. We push them to the learners. They go there, they get the learning materials, they do what we say, they reply to those learning materials, we mark them. We were just using it for that, as Stephen said actually, as a fire repository. And of course within walled gardens, you don't want outsiders coming. Universities have got fences, schools have got very big fences in the UK to keep the students in and to keep other people out. You are a registered student, you can come in, you can't. Not for a discourse, but a walled garden. And of course they were owned by the institution, not owned by learners. This wasn't the learner space, don't get wrong. A VLE is not a space for learners. A VLE is an institutional space in which we mandate or invite the students to enter our spaces. And of course, to recognise that, you have hierarchical privileges. If any of you ever set up a VLE, we have all kinds of different roles assumed, with students usually having the lowest privileges within a VLE, managers having the highest, staff, teaching staff somewhere in the middle usually, depending on how the VLE is set up. Now look, if you don't believe me, let's go back to the people who invented it. This is a diagram from SCORM, the SCORM standard for learning objects. And this is how SCORM was designed. You have a learning management system, you have objects, You have a delivery device which blasts it into the brain of learners. I didn't do this. This is an official score diagram. I think it's really interesting who they think the learners are. Warfighters at the top, you lot presumably professionals. You're just one level above anyone, and way below labourers, technicians, students and warfighters. I don't know how they constructed that list in that order. But that's it. So don't worry, that is the VLE diagram as designed by the people who designed the standards, the SCORM standards on which VLEs are done. But look, that's the past. The model, not just the VLE model, the model of education is being challenged. And that's why this debate is so important. First of all, there's the personalisation of learning. There's a recognition, especially if you talk about it in further education, one size does not fit all. And we have, through our one-size education, been failing many, many, many learners. Usually the socially disadvantaged learners, actually, people from poorer income brackets. But also subjects which are minority subjects, because we can't cover them all with high-level electronic learning materials on the present model. And if you take on the official careers standards for the UK, there's 762 occupations. We can't do it all in this standardised environment. So first of all, we've got pressure, personalisation. Secondly, we've got new demand for education. The present education model does not scale up to even allow all the children in the world to go to elementary school. It doesn't scale so kids can go to school in large parts of the world. It does not scale to 50% of the world's 50% of people progressing to university around the world. The cash isn't there, forget it, let's get real. Added to the pressure of lifelong learning because of changes in industry, changes in commerce, the increasing amount of capital which is required in the production process, the model doesn't scale to the needs of learners. Thirdly, we have new sources and contexts of learning which are coming in, especially through use of technology, recognising the workplace and work-based learning, recognising the home as important sources of learning. The VLE ignores the workplace as a learning loci, and the workplace will probably become the most important area for the majority of us in where we learn in the future. We have changing ways in which people are using computers, young people, but not just young people, for socialising, for entertainment, for exchanging ideas, and yes, for learning through social networks, through communication channels. And of course we have increasingly people are developing their personal learning networks. They might not call it that, but it's people they turn to when they want to learn. And guess what? They are not the people who are in their group, not the people in their classroom, which is how we've organised it, and therefore are wider group than the VLE is addressing. And they are participating in community of practice. I've got 2 minutes. They are appropriating technologies for learning. We do not use the VLE. None of you go to your VLE when you want to learn something. You use a piece of software, a learning piece of software called Google. That's where you go. Why should your students go anywhere different? And we are using multiple devices, mobile phones, all things that James carries around in his pocket all the time and never ceases to be amazed by it. And we are learning through practice, just not through theory. And we are learning through bricolage, through making creative and resourceful use of whatever materials are at hand. And we are shaping digital identities in the process. That's completely different. The VLE says nothing about digital identities. Digital identities are CVs of the future, our digital footprints. And in other words, we are developing personal learning environments. I don't have to say, here is your PLE. People are developing their personal learning environments. By the way, they are using computers for learning in the workplace and at home now. Now, the whole problem of this is, what are the institutions going to do about it? People are using PLEs now. They're not using VLEs now. Do universities say, we're ploughing on because it's good for our staff development, because we invested a lot of money with Blackboard, because our technicians have spent a lot of time installing Moodle, or do we recognise what is happening and start looking at the possibilities that PLEs give us? Thank you for watching.
Thank you very much, Brian.